focus of our conversation on this podcast today.
Joining the conversation is so easy with Seono Kimbaloi on Mike On Podcast.
I'm Sean Kimbaloi.
On Twitter Spaces, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live at the Mike On Podcast.
The question is that just in about 9 months, prices have doubled. You see, the exchange rate is incredible. The numbers. You look at it, prices of food items are making people wonder. In fact, some people have speculated that Nigeria is fast approaching the Venezuela scenario. And God forbid, we cannot only pray. But the question here is that if things are spiraling at this pace, does the Tinubu government has capacity? There are those who will tell you that the government has not shown any capacity in the manner and the speed at which things have spiraled.
Well, anybody can say what they want. It's a free world. But like I said before, the president called an extraordinary meeting of state governors who are also executives in their own regard, and had a very candid discussion with them. And I think that's something to go with. So in terms of now, like I said, a number of what's going on is also political in a way, even though, politics, people can react politically in any way that they want, So, but that the government is making efforts, like I said, you can see that the state governors are also rolling out plans already, very much. And, the state governors are closer to the people. The governor of Ogun State mentioned he released 50 billion for the workers in the state. That circulation will keep going.
People give power to a certain group of people in trust.
Yes,
so you judge the action of a government by their antecedent, what they have done. So in 9 months, we should be able to tell whether the government has shown capacity to handle the things in the face of escalating and spiraling prices of commodities.
It's condescending because we won't come after you asking about your capacity 6 months, 9 months after you resume your work in channels. You have grown over years and become more perfect and more adept at what you do. This government has come within 9 months and rolled out this very important reform to say, let us do things differently. President Tinubu is an accountant, an auditor. And so in making a statement on the day of his inauguration, that look, subsidy is gone. What he had in mind was, look, let me be able to put a finger on the resources of the state to know exactly what is where. If I'm going to run this country, I need to know how much the finances are. We cannot continue saying that, we sold crude oil and on the way back, we use all the money to purchase petroleum for the people to use. Let's separate the two accounts. And that's why I say, subsidy is gone. And we affected that. And of course, the next thing was, okay, this foreign exchange issue, what do we do with this arbitrage? How come the government is getting 461 naira for everything sold from abroad, but people are finding a way of getting dollars and also changing in the black market at 780 something or 790 something naira? And so the government tried to bridge those two gaps. Of course, what happened was, okay, that other rate also shifted rightwards. And at some point, the central bank had to say, this rate is too much. Let us shift again. So there's nothing wrong in questioning what the government is doing. But I think that what needs to be understood is, within 9 months, it's not too bad. Even a child, will gestate in 9 months, not to talk of economic policies having positive effects.
This has been the focus of our conversation on this podcast today.
Joining the conversation is so easy with Seono Kimbaloi on Mike On Podcast.
I'm Sean Kimbaloi.
On Twitter Spaces, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live at the Mike On Podcast.
This has been the focus of our conversation on this podcast today.
Joining the conversation is so easy with Shayono Kimbaloi on Mike On Podcast.
I'm Sean Kimbaloi.
On Twitter Spaces, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live at the Mike On Podcast.
The question is that just in about 9 months, prices have doubled. You see, the exchange rate is incredible. The numbers. You look at it, prices of food items are making people wonder. In fact, some people have speculated that Nigeria is fast approaching the Venezuela scenario. And God forbid, we cannot only pray. But the question here is that if things are spiraling in this at this pace, does the Tinubu government has capacity? There are those who will tell you that the government has not shown any capacity in the manner and the speed at which things have spiraled.
Well, anybody can say what they want. It's a free world. But like I said before, the president called an extraordinary meeting of state governors who are also executives in their own regard, and had a very candid discussion with them. And I think that that's something to go with. And so in terms of now, like I said, a number of what's going on is also political in a way, even though, politics, people can react politically in any way that they want, So, but that the government is making efforts, like I said, you can see that the state governors are also rolling out plans already, very much. And, the state governors are closer to the people. The governor of Ogun State mentioned he released 50 billion for the workers in the state. That circulation will keep going.
People give power to a certain group of people in trust. So you judge the action of a government by their antecedent, what they have done. So in 9 months, we should be able to tell whether the government has shown capacity to handle the things in the face of escalating and spiraling prices of commodities.
It's condescending because we won't come after you asking about your capacity 9 months after you resume your work in channels. You have grown over years and become more perfect and more adept at what you do. This government has come within 9 months and rolled out these very important reforms to say, let us do things differently. President Tinubu is an accountant, an auditor. And so in making a statement on the day of his inauguration that, look, subsidy is gone, what he had in mind was, look, let me be able to put a finger on the resources of the state to know exactly what is where. If I'm going to run this country, I need to know how much the finances are. We cannot continue saying that, we sold crude oil and on the way back, we use all the money to purchase petroleum for the people to use. Let's separate the two accounts. And that's why I say, subsidy is gone. And we affected that. And of course, the next thing was, okay, this foreign exchange issue, what do we do with this arbitrage? How come the government is getting 461 naira for everything sold from abroad, but people are finding a way of getting dollars and also changing in the black market at 780 something or 790 something naira? And so the government tried to bridge those two gaps. Of course, what happened was, okay, that other rate also shifted rightwards, and at some point the central bank had to say, this rate is too much, let us shift again. So there's nothing wrong in questioning what the government is doing, but I think that what needs to be understood is, within 9 months, it's not too bad. Even a child, will gestate in 9 months, not to talk of economic policies having positive effects.
This has been the focus of our conversation on this podcast today.
Joining the conversation is so easy with Shayono Kimbaloi on Mike On Podcast.
I'm Sean Kimbaloi.
On Twitter Spaces, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live at the Mike On Podcast.
And this has been the focus of our conversation on this podcast today.
Joining the conversation is so easy with Shayono
You have the
Kimbaloi
mic.
on Mike on Podcast.
I'm sure Kimberly.
On Twitter Spaces, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram Live at the Mike on Podcast.
The question is that just in about 9 months, prices have doubled. You see, the exchange rate is incredible. The numbers. You look at it, prices of food items are making people wonder. In fact, some people have speculated that Nigeria is fast approaching the Venezuela scenario. And God forbid, we cannot only pray. But the question here is that if things are spiraling at this pace, does the Tinubu government has capacity? There are those who will tell you that the government has not shown any capacity in the manner and the speed at which things have spiraled.
Well, anybody can say what they want. It's a free world, but like I said before, the president called an extraordinary meeting of state governors who are also executives in their own regard, and had a very candid discussion with them. And I think that's something to go with. And so in terms of now, like I said, a number of what's going on is also political in a way, even though, politics, people can react politically in any way that they want, So, but that the government is making efforts, like I said, you can see that the state governors are also rolling out plans already, very much. And, the state governors are closer to the people. The governor of Ogun State mentioned he released 50 billion for the workers in the state. That circulation will keep going.
People give power to a certain group of people in trust. So you judge the action of a government by their antecedent, what they have done. So in 9 months, we should be able to tell whether the government has shown capacity to handle the things in the face of escalating and spiraling prices of commodities.
It's condescending because we won't come after you asking about your capacity 9 months after you resume your work in channels. You have grown over years and become more perfect and more adept at what you do. This government has come within 9 months and rolled out these very important reforms to say, you know what, let us do things differently. President Tinubu is an accountant, an auditor. And so in making a statement on the day of his inauguration, that look, subsidy is gone. What he had in mind was, look, let me be able to put a finger on the resources of the state to know exactly what is where. If I'm going to run this country, I need to know how much the finances are. We cannot continue saying that, we sold crude oil and on the way back, we use all the money to purchase petroleum for the people to use. Let's separate the two accounts. And that's why I say, subsidy is gone. And we affected that. And of course, the next thing was, okay, this foreign exchange issue, what do we do with this arbitrage? How come the government is getting 461 naira for everything sold from abroad, but people are finding a way of getting dollars and also changing in the black market at 780 something or 790 something naira? And so the government tried to bridge those two gaps. Of course, what happened was, okay, that other rate also shifted rightwards. And at some point, the central bank had to say, you know what, this rate is too much. Let us shift again. So there's nothing wrong in questioning what the government is doing. But I think that what needs to be understood is, within 9 months, it's not too bad. Even a child, will gestate in 9 months, not to talk of economic policies having positive effect.
in this edition of the Mike On Podcast.
The words of Jean de La Fontaine when he said an angry man has no ears re-echoes in Nigeria. From the streets of Niger State to the cocoa and agricultural hub of Nigeria, down to the oil-rich state of Delta, there are voices of anger. Hunger is in the land. The burden of leadership rests heavily on President Bola Tinubu like never before. Prices of food are on the rise. There is the fear of a looming anarchy. How can the president tame the rising agitation? Join Seun Okinbaloye as he leads this conversation on the Mike On Podcast today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike On Podcast, where we amplify the voices that matter. I'm Seun Okinbaloye, your host. The Mike On Podcast operates independently of my weekday show on Channels Television, which is Politics Today, as well as the weekend edition, the Sunday Politics. Today, we're touching on the heart of the matter that has gripped our nation, Nigeria, with placards held high and songs of solidarity echoing across states. Nigerians are taking to the streets to protest the soaring cost of living, and it seems there may be more protests in the coming days. The numbers are stark. In January alone, the inflation rate surged to 29.9%, marking its highest point since 1996. So what's driving this upward spiral? It's primarily the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages, essentials that are becoming increasingly out of reach for many Nigerians. It's not just a matter of statistics. It is a story of real people grappling with one of the most severe economic crises the nation has faced in years. Anger fueled by hunger simmers in the streets, in homes, and in the hearts of ordinary Nigerians. In the face of this crisis, the question looms, can President Tinubu tame these rising waves of discontent? Can he be able to calm the storm? Tonight, I'll be speaking with two gentlemen. One I've had a conversation with earlier, and we shall be asking questions on the labor organizations in the country and their contributions to the manner in which these whole things have gone in the past few weeks. The labor had accused the federal government of not being truthful and not being circumspect in fulfilling some of the agreements signed in an MOU since October last year. And so there's another letter has surfaced which has said that the Attorney General is already asking that the lawyers to the labor to tell labor to be warned about going ahead on street protests. And these are the issues that we'll be looking at tonight. These protests, the rising cost of commodity. In fact, just last week, the prices of some of the commodities that were displayed for you, just in 1 week, it has gone up. Pure water. The prices went up from just last week, just in 1 week. Things are growing. We talk about this all tonight. And those of you who are joining us, welcome to the show. Let me play for you the conversation I had with the president of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Festus Osifo, who by now will be in transit and is unable to join us live. But we had a conversation which were pre-recorded before I allow my other guest, Comrade Deji Adeyanju, who is a lawyer and a rights activist, will be joining us after that pre-recorded conversation with Comrade Osifo. Take a listen to our conversation earlier. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening, Seun.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Mike On Podcast. I know you're in transit and it might be difficult to track you down after this moment, but it's important for us to have this conversation, especially because of the plans that Labour has in the coming days. They've given the federal government a 14-day ultimatum, which I think we might be entering into the final hours or final days of the ultimatum to perform all you will now down to with your members. Where are we at on that plan?
Yes, it was correct that we issued an ultimatum to federal government about 14 days ago. So when the reason we issued that ultimatum was because the agreement that we reached with the federal government on the 2nd of October, as at that time, nothing has been implemented. So for us, outside the inauguration of the minimum wage committee, so we looked at it, we appraised the situation, and we felt that no, we need to get government to be much more serious. But since we issued that ultimatum, a lot has actually changed as well. Because number one, if you the last time that we had a conversation, we actually said that there are low-hanging fruits in there, that the 35,000 naira wage award, that it was paid for just 1 month, and in some instances it was paid for about 2 months. But as we speak today, they have paid literally all the federal workers about 4 months. We have confirmed that majority of the federal workers have received 4 months. What that means is that within the last 14 days, they have paid extra 3 months in some cases, while in other cases they've paid extra 2 months, bringing it to about 4 months. That has been done, but we have also told them that paying 4 months, that means September, October, November, December, that we still have January standing, and February is just rolling into it now, which is also assured that by next week that they are also planning to pay that of January. Then also, if you look at that communique that was signed on the 2nd of October, they were supposed to, it was supposed to be a consent judgment. They were supposed to take that document to court and get it notarized. But that wasn't done. But immediately we issued the ultimatum, they have actually done that as well. They took the document to court. So the Attorney General took it to court. So the Attorney General signed. The Honorable Minister of State Labor signed. So Comrade Ajaero signed. And I myself have also signed as well. So that document today, we have that court consent. Then also on the issue that is burden of visitation of refinery, you know, it was one of the issues that was also outstanding. That has also been done today. Last week, a team from Labour met with government where we raised the issue, and the visitation has also been done. I think that visitation took place on Wednesday last week. So since we issued the 14 days ultimatum, there have been some traction from government in that regard. The plan from our side in TUC is that by Monday, we are going to have a meeting. Then when we have that meeting on Monday, we will appraise the situation and we will define the new, the direction with which we will go.
I don't know if you've seen the letter from the Office of the Attorney General to the lawyers of the Labour, Mr. Femi Falana, asking that if Labour should go ahead with their protest, that it will be in contravention of the ongoing agreement or the conversations between Labour and the federal government. I don't know if you have seen that letter.
Yes, I learned about it. My secretary, the secretary of TUC, just drew my attention to it. The Secretary General, that a particular letter was sent out. But again, just as we do, we are also we will have some interactions with our lawyers, and we'll define the best way forward. Yeah. But again, government also, they have a duty to also honor the agreement that was reached. So if you breach your own path, then it could now be difficult for you to tell the other party not to also take some actions.
So could it be correct to say that before the 14-day ultimatum given to the federal government, they were lagging and they were inactive to perform the spirit and the letters of the agreement? Is that right?
Very correct. Very correct.
But it does look like, from what you have explained, that since you came out and gave that warning, that the federal government has reasonably moved and swung into action. Is that right?
Yes, very correct. Very correct.
The federal government is saying in the paragraph 5 of the letter from the Attorney General's office says that they are substantially and reasonably complied with the items in the MOU, and it is only appropriate and equitable for organized labor to engage more with government to ensure the full implementation of same. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, for us, if you ask us to look at that, the MOU today, we could score them somewhere around 50-55% or thereabout. But before the ultimatum was given, I could say that the score will be nothing more than 10%. So in the last 14 days, because again, we demand government to always say the truth. We demand from government, we push them hard to do what is right. So when they also make some move, it's also incumbent on us for us to also say it. Because they called for a meeting in the Ministry of Labor last week. So the representative from TUC, we went for that conversation where we looked at a list. What have you done? Where are we today? And I could say that to some extent, they have made some move. If we had issued that ultimatum and they refused to move whatsoever, it could have been something different. But I will tell you that really they have made some move, because when the ultimatum was issued, 1 month wage award was paid in some cases, and in some other instances they paid 2. But today they've reasonably paid 4 and all that. So for us, to a large extent, to some extent, I would say large extent, but to some extent, there are some level of movement as we speak today. But we are going to appraise all this by Monday, and we will communicate to our members.
Is it true that the TUC was not in agreement with the NLC on the 2-day warning strike protest?
No. Seun, what we have always said, TUC is a labor center. NLC as well is a labor center. So what we normally do is that both parties need to discuss on the way forward. So when I want to carry out a strike, or when TUC wants to carry out a strike or a protest, what we normally do is that we reach out to NLC. So both parties will sit down. We will agree on the dates. We will agree on the modalities. Yeah, we will not go to our neck and we'll drive the process. But in this case, we were shocked and we were surprised. The same way everybody saw it in the media, that was how we also saw it. And we now had to write a protest letter to our sister Congress that, no, this is not the best way we go about it. That letter was really a letter written to the Congress, to the NLC president, but because we placed it, we also informed some of our NEC members. I think the information now went out to the press. So for us, it's about the process. Both parties, that is how we have been driving processes together. That is how we have been solidarizing together. But in this case, our sister Congress, took that decision without consulting us. And we have also made
without consulting with you.
Yes, correct. But they have also responded to us, trying to make 1 or 2 clarifications and explanation. But be rest assured that in the coming days, both parties will sit down together and iron whatsoever gray area that is there. So for us,
TUC will not go on that warning strike.
No, like I said, that the NAC of TUC is going to meet on Monday. So when we meet on Monday, we will evaluate all the situations vis-a-vis the letter we sent out, and also the response from our sister Congress. We will look at it and we will communicate to Nigerians by Monday.
Now, if you look at what is going on from your own point of view right now, do you think it's going to be fair to still go ahead with the strike or the protest, as the case may be?
Yes, so those are the things that we analyze. Because by God's grace, I'm the leader of TUC today, and I'll be calling the national executives, the National Administrative Council for a meeting on Monday. It will not be wise for me to make a categorical statement now, but Shehu, I can assure you that after that meeting, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you so much. Let me get clarification. The federal government is saying that the labor should refrain from any kind of protest. And this is the way the Attorney General described it. He described it as self-help. And he said that it's going to be antithetical to the mediatory engagement leading to the execution of the MOU. The protest is different from strike action. It does look like the federal government is weary and worried about agitations in the land. Whichever the case may be, people are suffering. And there are those who feel that the NLC and the TUC, these organizations, are only looking after their own members, not in the larger interest of the Nigerian populace. And there are those who are suggesting that they will go on the street to protest. Will the labor still go on to protest based on the economic hardship being experienced in Nigeria today?
Thank you, Shehu. Like as I've said earlier, that for us, any tool that we have to call government to order, any tool that we have to call government to action, we will always do that. But if that tool is a tool of coercion, we will get it done. So if, like I told you, we gave an ultimatum and they started doing some things. So if we give an ultimatum and those issues are resolved, then there is really no point going on strike again. But what NLC has called for is a protest. To call government to look at the plight of Nigerians today and the sufferings that are going all across Nigeria today. Yes, for us, it is so anything, any tool we could use in calling them to action, we must do. It is left for Attorney General to come up to write exactly what he has written. That is his function as Attorney General. It's also left for us in Labour to also review the situation, and we will also take a decision. So if he calls for us to go on total strike, we will go. If he calls for us to go for warning strike, we will do. If he calls for us to protest, we will. But amidst all these, if government, now look, if we are shown concrete plans on how government intends to ameliorate the suffering of Nigerians, if we are shown concrete terms of the steps government has taken or the things that they are intending to do or what they are doing currently, because you must tell us, what are you doing today? What do you intend to do tomorrow? What do you intend to do on Monday morning to get Nigerians out of this? We want those concrete things. So beyond strike, beyond protest, which is legitimate, we will deploy, we are also going to have some conversations with government so that we understand what are those things that they are doing. Then all the ideas that we also have, we will put them on the table, because in Labour we have people with intellect, we have people cut across the nook and crannies of our society. So we are harnessing all these views, and we also sit down with government to put them across, because all hands must be on deck to solve this problem that we currently are today.
Are you worried about the security agencies also warning against any form of street protest?
Yes, all security agencies need to do is to protect those that are protesting. It's to protect those that are protesting, and that is what the law says. When you are to protest, you write to police. Police will provide you with security, and after that, that is the role of security, because protest is legitimate as long as it is peaceful.
On the final note, you are not worried that the security are saying do not protest because it might be hijacked. It might cause some agitation in the land and unrest.
Is their function, is the function of security agencies to protect us when we protest. Is their function to ensure that it's not hijacked. So they should also live up to their billing and live up to their responsibility.
Thank you so much indeed, Comrade Festus Osifo, for talking to us on the Mic On podcast. All right, then, that was our conversation with the Trade Union Congress President, Comrade Festus Osifo. Let's let's push the conversation forward. I'm being joined by Comrade Deji Adeyanju, joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much, Comrade Adeyanju, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Are you feeling? You don't look like someone who is feeling the pinch of the hardship.
I'm not feeling it at all. Because I prepared for this. I knew this was going to happen. It was in this studio I warned Nigerians that hell is coming. Hell is coming. And many supporters of Labour Party, PDP and APC disagreed with me. Right here in this studio. So I saw hell coming and I prepared.
What do you mean by hell?
I'm ready for 7 more years of Tinubu's hell. I'm prepared to face the hell.
What do you mean? What do you mean by hell? When you say hell, what does that mean?
Yes, when I say hell, Nigeria is like a burning furnace at the moment. The poor can barely breathe. And this man came with the promise that he wants the poor to breathe. But Tinubu is practically suffocating the life out of every citizen of this country. Whether you are rich or poor, this is the first time in the history of Nigeria where you find both the elite and the poor, they are complaining in unison, because the problem of the rich is different from that of the poor. The problem of in fact, Tinubu, in 9 months, Tinubu has practically eradicated the middle class. You know, and the middle class used to be a buffer for the ruling elite in the country, because it is the middle class that you see they form big girls and big girls in the club. How many times have you seen since Bala Blue came in? Have you seen people shut down clubs in Nigeria? Even the clubs owners are tired of business. They are running out of business. So, and to buy a ticket, a plane ticket that the middle class used to do, oh, let me just quickly go to Lagos and just unwind. To buy a one-way plane ticket from Abuja to Lagos is almost 100 and something thousand naira. So Tinubu indeed is destroying Nigeria, no doubt. Anyone that tells you anything contrary, it's been economical with the truth. So I knew this was going to happen. I warned 2 years ago that dollar is going to get close to 2,000. People mocked me because the Buhari regime, they balkanized the economy. They turned the economy to about favoritism, religious and ethnic jingoism. So, and that is why we're where we are today. But Tinubu has come and he has worsened the plight of the Nigerian nation by bringing Baba Sokwe economists to come and run the economy.
Who are the Baba Sokwe economists?
Look at the person that is in CBN, a CBN governor. That man should not be running a microfinance bank in Alimosho.
What do you mean? He has a reputation in the sector. He's being...
Yeah, he has a reputation of running down 2 banks. This man ran two banks to the ground. So is that not a reputation? The only reason why that man will be in CBN is because of Baba Sokwe and Ngbati politics. If not, people like that, see, Sheung, a developed nation, advanced nation like America cannot afford to have mediocres like that in charge of its economy.
You call Yemi Cardoso a mediocre?
Yes, with Indomie. He has Indomie in his brain.
No, that's unfair to say. I mean, that's derogatory.
In the last 9 months, he has shown that it is Indomie that is in his brain.
No. That's unfair for you to say to a man who has paid his dues, who's had that kind of education,
who has paid his
worked
dues
hard.
in Baba Sokwe politics. Yes, he has paid his dues.
You don't think he has the capacity, the educational qualification, the professional reputation to be able to run the CBN? Is that what you're saying?
So why don't we appoint people in the universities to run CBN? If running CBN is about paper qualification.
So what do you think? Who do you think it would have been best for to run the CBN?
There are so many qualified people. People who lobbied Tinubu, but Tinubu refused to. Qualified and competent people who are conversant. A man was commissioner 20-something years ago. He has lost touch with reality. He doesn't even understand the context of running the Apex Bank in the country. The man in Ministry of Finance doesn't even understand the complexity of the dynamics of economics of nowadays. These people were Ashiwaju's people who were his commissioners, who are not even mindful. Listen, running a nation is not about politics or about loyalty. It's not a reward system. You cannot be doing a reward system with the finances and the economy of a battered nation like Nigeria. Look at how badly Buhari destroyed this country. Okay, look at the trajectory of how our economy have suffered. We moved from the top of the top, Anongozo Okwenjewela. We came to Sadia. Then now we are back to this, where the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance, what are even his responsibilities? What are his responsibilities? That is when you will know whether Ewale Edun, who I believe is competent in terms of paper qualification. You understand? That is when you even know whether he knows the terms and reference of his job. Look at the man came out, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, and said that he wants to now be involved in cash transfer. Is that the work of a minister of finance? Somebody that's supposed to coordinate economic development matters? Somebody that's supposed to focus on budget policy and advice and processes? someone that's supposed to be involved in budget preparation, someone that should be concerned about debt management of the economy and of the nation. And look at the kind of outrageous things that we have been doing. We continued from where Buhari balkanized Nigeria and where Buhari stopped. Nigeria is spending money that it does not have. If a Wale Edu knows what he's doing, will he allow that kind of budget for National Assembly?
But I mean, this is the man you're referring to, that the economy, the GDP grew, the Q4, there was a positive in the Q4 of 2023. I mean, you were talking about a government that says, look, we're making some policies that might cause immediate hardship, but in the end, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Buhari said more
because things are bad.
When Buhari came, Buhari said things first have to get bad before they get better. Buhari left Nigeria completely balkanized. Do you sincerely believe, Sheon, that the Nigerian economy is growing? Do you sincerely believe? Does he believe that Nigerian economy is growing, or they are torturing and doctoring statistics?
But the indices of the Q4 says otherwise, DG.
And this is what I always say about this country, that all we do here is doctor statistics and torture them in the process. Critically speaking, have they managed the monetary policy of this country well, or the fiscal policy? They have not in the last 9 months. Nigeria is worse off. We are the major problem is look at them try to police the dollar.
Can you sincerely blame a government that just spent 9 months in office?
Yes, they are not the main cause of our problems, especially our economic problems, but they are to blame for the way the situation has become worsened in the last 9 months. This is why it's always important to get the best brains involved, especially people that are conversant. If Tinubu had won the election, approach someone like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. In the economic sector in the world, it's like a cult where if you don't know these people, they will have problem in bringing resources into your country. Consult an Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Definitely she will not come. Tell her I said, in this sector, please, who can you advise us? Because it is our nation we are talking about.
Are you thinking that things have gotten out of hand?
Yes,
completely. I mean, you don't think that the government is able and capable to be able to tame the rising or the spiral effect of the manner in which things are going in the economy? Is that what you're saying?
I think they've completely lost control. And that is why you can see that they are now catching at straws. Because, come on, which nation in the world we want to use gun to control its economy? That's what they're currently doing. They are cutting trees in Zone 4 to control the economy. They are using guns.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, they want to arrest the economy. The idea of Wale Edu and Yemi Cardoso is to use the barrel of a gun to run the economy. And it can never work. It will never work. And that is to show you that they've completely lost control and they are not in charge of the economy. Additionally, I must add that the management of a nation's economy goes beyond lip service. In this country today, Sheon, we have no reason why the CBN, the Ministry of Finance, should be policing the dollar.
You don't think that there are those who are actually sabotaging the economy, those who are hoarding dollars, those who are inflating, those who are manually controlling the FX market in the parallel market? You don't think that they need to be tamed? They need to be sent out of business?
All the people doing these things that you have alleged, they are in Aso Rock. They are in CBN, they are Ministry of Finance. The biggest owners and operators of BDC in Nigeria, they are in CBN. All the directors in CBN, they operate BDC. What are we talking about? Corruption is the reason why our legal tender, the Naira, is becoming as worthless as tissue paper. Is it not strange that our legal tender has become more worthless than the West African CFA? In just 9 months, So what are we talking about? Corruption. When they share fact, governors immediately change their loot to dollars.
You may not have facts to prove. I mean, to defend what you're saying. Do you have facts that governors are actually using?
Will the governors call me to say, did you come and help us to change our loot into dollars? Everybody knows. It's like going to say a man must go to the toilet. Corruption is the reason why our legal tender is worthless in Nigeria. They talk about, I hear the former CBN governor and this current CBN governor saying that it is Nigerians that have taste for foreign products. That's why the Naira is losing value. That's why there's so much demand on the dollar. 2021, 2022, 2023. Almost 70% of the forex that CBN gave out was given to Dangote and Boa. Are those Nigerians? How many Nigerians even have the connection or the capacity to secure forex in CBN? The entire process is fraught with fraud, with man no man, with corruption. And these Lagos boys that have come, they have reorganized CBN to such a way that CBN is more like a Lagos Island agency now. Change most directors, replace them with Yorubas. And all they are doing there is Babasokwe politics. They are not doing anything focused on economy. They are doing plain politics in CBN. So the major reason, and in answering your question, saying people are sabotaging, before one starts sounding very clownish, you don't and laugh before people start laughing at us. Let's not begin to sound like Kashim Shettima, who said the reason for the hardship in the country, or the reason for some of the economic challenges in the country is because of the people who lost the election. Can you just imagine?
But yeah, the vice president has said that they arrested trucks taking out Nigerian food items in the midst of the food shortage outside of the country. He is saying that there are politicians who are deliberately sabotaging the economy. You don't believe that those are possible because these are security reports.
Is there a law that says people cannot take food to across the border? Is there a law that says people cannot? These guys have run out of ideas.
If those are deliberate efforts,
deliberate how?
To cause hoarding,
it's like saying that I have a warehouse, like what I saw in Kano. I have a warehouse, I'm a businessman, where I house grains. You break into my warehouse, and you say that I must share that I must sell. Do you understand? It doesn't make sense. This government is clueless. That is the only explanation. The government is completely clueless. They have no ideas.
This is what you call the Jonathan government. You critics call the Jonathan government clueless. It does look like what I've heard before. No, you're now calling the Tinubu government clueless again.
The Jonathan government, if the Jonathan government is clueless, then this government is clueless raised to power X or 10. Because I don't understand the situation where the Senate president, Godswill Akpabio, he said all these hardship protests you see in the country is being sponsored by the opposition. The man is living in a corruption bubble. He's not aware that there's problem in the country. A pack of Indomie, a carton of Indomie that used to sell 2 weeks ago for 11,000 is now 18,000. Within the span of 2 weeks, this man says his opposition is sponsoring hardship protests in Kano, in a Niger APC control state. They do not realize that people are suffering. And they cannot appreciate the fact that they don't even believe that anyone should suffer. After all, the budget of the National Assembly moved from 100 and something billion to almost 400 billion. So why wouldn't Akpabio be in disbelief that people are suffering?
Let's take a look at the prices of commodities again. I mean, we looked at it. It does look like between last week and now that we put up these figures, things have changed. Noodles, a carton, 3.5 before this government came into office is doubled, of course. 6,500 now.
That's the tiny one, the small one.
Yes,
it has even increased.
Oh, how much is the hungry man size now?
The big one used to be 11,000 about 2 weeks ago. Is now 18,000. And 6,000 additional, or there about 7,000.
So you look at all of these prices that you see on the screen.
Yes.
In fact, sachet water The price that we had there last week has since changed.
Yes,
we
it
have
is.
to adjust this because things have changed in the market.
Yes.
Egg, look at the crate of egg,
Yes.
3,800 naira.
Yes.
It's now for the rich.
Yes.
Vegetable oil, 9,000 naira right now. It used to be 3,500.
Yes.
You look at tomatoes, rice, beans, all of these prices have skyrocketed.
Yes.
And things are getting rather unbearable for the average person. You probably listened to the conversation I had with the TUC president.
Yes.
Basically, the federal government is warning labor. Wrote to the lawyers of the labor to say, look, let your people desist from going on strike. We are reasonably working on the MOU. It does look like there is a concern from government that people are going to the street. How much of a worry do you think this should be? The agitation is rising.
Well, you see, government should take proactive steps to prevent a breakdown of the country. And government there are so many recommendations. It's not enough for me to come here and just criticize government. There are quite enough recommendations that I offer to government. You know, since there is extreme hardship in the country, these are some of the quick, low-hanging fruits that government can do. One, government can complete removal of custom duties or tariff on all drugs, because drugs now are extremely expensive. And you know, many Nigerians are on specific drugs. So that is one. Then food-related items, you know, government can remove complete tariff on that to cushion the level of food production that we have in the country, because there are certain food that we still import into the country. And this will limit the negative impact that the bad economy will have on the citizenry. Again, going to issue of the labor, many Nigerians sincerely do not have confidence in NLC or TUC. And listening to the TUC president, in fact, I got more worried for the labor union listening to the TUC president, because the TUC president was practically sounding like a government spokesperson, which is very, very sad indeed. And that is how you know people that have compromised, because we all live in this country. There is nobody that will say, no matter how much your salary is today, that can say the salary can take you home, except you are stealing. No civil servant. No civil servant.
So you don't trust labor? Any of the NLC, TUC, you don't trust them?
I am giving labor, NLC, the benefit of doubt. But TUC, I don't trust them. They are working for the government. They are working for, and you know, we have people in this government that are our friends. They've told some of us that forget those TUC people, we've reached them. You know, they're nothing, they cannot do anything. So it has gotten to that level that even people in government look at them with disdain, because when you compromise, people in government don't trust you. You understand? And even when they are speaking about you, they speak about you with disdain. So, of course, TUC will not, I can tell you authoritatively, there's nothing I come here and I say that if you go and verify, you always find out that yes, this TUC is compromised. Whether labor, there's a lot of resistance within labor that, they should not go on strike, on the hunger strike, in solidarity with the Nigerian people. There's a lot of resistance. But some people in the labor feel that the suffering is too much, has become unbearable, and that they must solidarize with the Nigerian people. You know, and what Nigerians understand, the Nigerian government and the Nigerian political elite, what they understand is the language of the barricades. You know, it is when you go to the barricades and that they now realize that, the matter is more complicated, you know, than they ordinarily will assume. So for me, I believe at this point, all Nigerians should give NLC the benefit of doubt. But as for labor, as for TUC, I've written them completely off. I don't see them, even if there's a protest for them joining. If they join, I will be extremely surprised, and I will be happy, you know. But we are not protesting because of ourselves. We are protesting because, and we want to hit the street because Nigerians are suffering.
So you and your friends are planning to hit the streets?
We are massively mobilizing.
When is this going to happen?
We want to harmonize and join the labor plan protest. And we are actually in talks with many people in labor, especially the people who are of the view that the protest must happen.
What would you be protesting for? What will you be asking? Will going to the street make anything change or change anything?
That's the language that the politicians understand. The ruling elite, that's the only language they understand. Nigerians must wake up and take back their country. Every Nigerian, it's not just enough to come and complain and cry and shout about skyrocketing prices of food items. Nigerians must hit the street. When we hit the street, the people in government, they instantly get the message. If we hit the street, left to me, I would say the president should rejig his economic team. This economic team is going to ruin Nigeria. They cannot get the job done. This is an economic team. Because any economic team that is more focused on borrowing, instead of expanding the frontiers of production, instead of limiting debt, because the problem with Nigeria is that Nigeria is broke, and Nigeria is spending money that it does not have. And the irony of even this is that we are not spending money on production. All we are doing is borrowing money so that politicians can loot.
All right. Just give me a moment, DG. Let me bring in a few people on the space so that we can get to hear what other Nigerians are feeling and what they think. Let me bring in at Folabi Malambati side. If you're ready, let's get your view. Your mic is on. Go ahead, please.
And thank you, Deji. In fact, for the first time in forever, I couldn't agree more with most of the things Deji is saying here. So the reality on ground now is that only two things are in front of us. One of them is the fact that the IGR of government has gone up. Clearly, we can all see that. The other side of it is extreme poverty, unstable economic environment, and an uncertain future. Forget all this analysis that these people are making. It seems as though this government is not looking at Nigerians at all. They just go ahead to implement any policies that either IMF and the World Bank has told them. And they have a very, this is just recklessness. I've listened to the CBN governor, and I've also listened to Wale Edun. People say he's smart and all of that. But these guys are uninspiring. When you hear them, you realize that they don't understand how complicated these issues are, right? I listen to both of them. Yes, they seem to have an idea about what is going on the surface, but they seem not to understand that these policies are actually going to cause permanent damage to some Nigerians and to some aspect of this economy. So they need to change. And I also believe that, there's no political will to really fight this battle. Look, Ayo Oyalo was on your station. I think you were the one that anchored that program. He said clearly that some banks are sitting on $7 billion US. He said it. In fact, I almost named some of those banks. What are we doing about it? And how come, crude theft, insecurity? These are some of the major issues. See, these are some of the problems that we have that are really, really making everything look, no matter the policy that you make and you reject the economy, if the insecurity still persists, nobody will come to you. There has to be a sustainable solution to all of it, but we're not seeing this thing. So let me wrap up on this note. I think this government is making one mistake. They have misinterpreted subsidy removal as more revenue for government to spend. But that is not correct. The people who are talking about subsidy removal is what they are saying is that is not a sustainable way to spend money. Take it out of how you are spending now and look for a more sustainable way to spend it. But what we have seen is that they've removed subsidy and now FAC has gone up. And what we're even hearing from unconfirmed reports is that some of this FAC is what is contributing to, the Naira devaluation. Because research has now shown clearly that anytime FAC is paid, Naira devaluation happens plus or minus 1 week after that. So you see, the reality is that if you're asking for what we need to protest for, I think we need to tell the government to be realistic with us. We need to tell the government to stop the inefficiency. We need to ask the government not to use Nigeria to gain legitimacy of whoever, whether the world, whoever it is. It is what it is that we have the government the way we have them.
All right.
Let them do what is right by the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let me get yet another person at Brighty Bitoye, First Light 2025 on X. Your mic is on. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Sheon. Thank you, DG. Listen, DG. I disagree with a couple of things you said. Hitting the street. If there is any most irresponsible organization I've seen in the history of Nigeria, is Nigerian Labour Congress. If you don't know, I will tell you. Nigerian Labour Congress put some of us into a lot of issues when they asked us to subscribe for a housing system, and they swallowed our money. For 10 years, we've been chasing them. That's by the way. In any case, when you say people should hit the street, please, I'm asking, when you hit the street, is it that after 2 days protest, the entire problem that Nigeria is having will just disappear into thin air? And I've also seen that everybody just pay attention to the center. What happens to the state governors that are gawking in billions every month? Delta state budget, fact, has risen from 15, 17 billion to 35 billion. As little as Bayelsa is, 28 local government, they are earning about 19 to 20 billion a month. Nobody is calling out the state governors. Is it going to be a crime if any of the state governors start spending 2 billion to subsidize food in their states? Why do you just narrow our thinking because we don't like the center, and then we'll narrow the entire problem? Like, is the state, is the center that controls the local government, is the center that controls the councillor, is the center that controls the governors? The governors that are living large, what are you saying? You are concerned about what Akpabio said, but you are not concerned about a governor that decided to spend a 36 billion naira, a 32 billion naira on a 6-kilometer road. You are okay with it. But then you are complaining about the center. What kind of thinking do we have in this country? We have governors. Governors need to first take care of their children. Their children is to feed the state. If you're going to spend 2 billion, 3 billion a month to subsidize food in your state, the inflation that we're discussing today will go down by half. To join what the center is doing, haven't the center given the same state governors money? And then we continue to think that the whole problem, the bullet should come from the center. Please, guys, let's be realistic to ourselves. If we protest now, can this protest, even if you go for 1 week, after 3 days, I can bet you the same Nigerians that ask you to go to the street, we ask you, they don't want to go to the street again, because the hunger we are talking about is real. But let's force the state governors to start bailing out their own citizens first before we concentrate on the center.
You do not agree with the protest, but how do you think that the attention should be paid on the state governors? How do you achieve that? How do you achieve that?
So the state governors, like I just said to you, you know what I'm saying. Delta is earning 36 billion naira every month. Bayelsa is earning 18 billion. River State 28 billion. This state, what is the population in this state? They even earn more than Lagos that earn a lot of revenues. So if the state decided to spend 2 billion every month to subsidize maize, to subsidize rice, to subsidize beans, to subsidize indomie, to subsidize all these things, pay the manufacturers to subsidize these prices so that it can go to every household in the state. If we do that in 3 months, this crying that everybody is crying, it will be released. And then that way, we can then hold the center and to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let me get another person on. Victor Abisoye at Olushegini, please, your quick intervention. Your mic is on. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sheon. Please, I just want to talk to the president. The president, please, I want to beg you. I sent you a WhatsApp message. I hope you look at it, that you don't join the angry mob, that you focus on living wage. You see, when there is inflation, what you do is look for wages to cover it, so that you can tie people's wages to inflation. But what we have seen is a lot of angry people who do not understand the solution to inflation. And they're just angry. Please, I need you to create a template so that when you are in negotiation with the federal government, you can look at living wage from grade level 1 to 17 and in different cities, so that you can use that as the basis of negotiation instead of this minimum wage nonsense that everybody is talking about. I want to beg you for that, and I don't know if you have any plan on what template you are going to use for your negotiation so that you can share some of it with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's get Omo Niger on X at Omo_Niger. Please, your mic is on. Go ahead. Your quick intervention.
Thank you very much, Shion. So my opinion of what your guest, Deji, I'm not even sure which Deji, but my opinion on his submission was basically that we had a lot of speculation, like even by your own opinion, because you had to ask multiple times, can you prove this? Can you do, how do you know this? Stuff like that. And we always got answers like, everybody knows now, stuff like that. And so it was too much speculation to make a solid argument where people will come in a place where people are arguing based on facts and figures. Telling us Nigeria's economy is not really growing, that, is just conjured up. How do you know? Everybody knows now. Who is the everybody? If Shehu knew, he wouldn't ask. I don't know. So I think we need to stop thinking that maybe because we believe in a conspiracy theory, every other person does. That is my own 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Omo Niger. Let me get my big brother, Osasu Obayuana, at Osasu on Twitter, on X. Please, your intervention.
Yes, good evening, Sean.
Good evening.
We have a problem. Everybody knows there's a problem. And there are short-term solutions and there are long-term solutions. I think Deji Adeonju's suggestion that import duty be lifted on food and drugs is very important, because we need to bring the prices of those things down as soon as possible so that people can afford the basics of life. But we have to understand something. There is no amount of subsidy or government financial intervention that is going to solve the problems if we don't address what the real issues are. And what are they? One, Nigeria has pumped $23 trillion, 23 trillion naira, I beg your pardon, of unbacked naira into the economy. A lot of that money is not even within the banking system. It is outside of the banking system. How does Nigeria arrest the inflation that a lot of that money is causing? That is the one point. The second point, Nigerians must know what the debt profile of the country is. According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria has a foreign debt profile of $45 billion and a local debt profile of about $70 billion. So the total debt profile of the country as we are talking today is over 100 billion. And as at the moment, the government is spending over 90% of their income to service debt. So there is no money for them to even meet recurrent expenditure. There is no money for them to meet infrastructural development. The country is in desperate need now of debt rescheduling and even to see how they can get some debt cancelled. Because without that, it's going to be very difficult for the economy to recover, no matter what the government is telling us today. So if the government starts addressing those issues, maybe we can begin to get somewhere. But obviously, nobody is going to forgive Nigeria debt when they see that our government is not behaving responsibly with money. This is also another thing that we need to address, because all these problems, while we can condemn Bola Ahmed Tinubu for how certain things have not been managed properly over the last couple of months, these problems have been going on for the last 8 years. Some would say even beyond that. So if we don't deal with the root causes of why the economy is bad, you can subsidize food for a couple of months, you can subsidize drugs for a couple of months, but the problems will still be there if we don't deal with them in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asasu. Appreciate it. SM Tanko at SAAD Musa Tanko on X. Your quick intervention, please.
Okay, sir. Mr. Shun, I think for me, the problem is basically is from the state governors. That's the angle I look at it, sir. That's just my contribution.
All right. Fantastic. Let me get Valentine. Thank you so much. Valentine at Valendo04.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I don't really have much to say, but to be honest, it's very unfortunate that we are still having this kind of discussion, like in this time of our country history. Because I don't know if it is possible for you to look back, say for instance, in 2011, 2012, the kind of this kind of program that probably you've heard then. I'm sure the kind of complaints we have now is still what we'll be talking about. And I don't know what exactly is going on. Maybe we don't. I don't know the kind of person we are, because when you look at where things are working in another country, you kind of ask yourself, like, what kind of human being are we in Nigeria? Is it that we are cursed or what? Because I honestly don't know. Other places where they are having it very good, it's not like they have two heads. And I think there's no way I want to talk about these things that I will not talk about the basics of how our leaders get into office. We until we get it right, I'm not sure we are going to have the right policies coming from the government. I mean, in a situation whereby they ask someone to come out and debate. I mean, they ask someone to come and tell us and talk to us. Is asking someone else to answer questions for him. I mean, right now, if this kind of policy somersault is coming out from that government, why should we blame, or why should we talk about it? It's obvious there is a capacity problem. Even the same Buhari, people were blaming Buhari. I remember very well when they called out this man, come out and talk to Nigerians. I mean, these guys cannot come out and have a debate and let us know how do you want to do it without anybody telling you what to do. I can't imagine myself, I mean, asking for an employment or applying for a job, and they are asking me to come for interview. And I can't go and tell them how I can add value to the company.
All right.
I don't know. Until we get it right, we are not going to get the policy right.
All right.
So we should not forget about the basics. Thank you, Sheil.
Thank you so much. Let me get back to DG. Nigerians are expressing their views across all of the issues relating to how this government is handling things and perhaps the way forward for this country. We are going into another crucial week. This economy is very fragile. Whatever this government does is going to have an effect on the bottom line.
Yes. Basically, I would like to respond to some of the issues raised, because one of the contributors said they asked for evidence of governors that loot money. Who in Nigeria does not know that government loot money? Look at all the records in the AFCC of how governors loot money, change the money to dollar. The governor of my state, former governor of immediate past governor of my state, is an example. When he paid school fees of his children ahead, almost 1 year ahead, almost $1 million. Where did he get the money from? Which work has Yahabelu ever done in his life where he will get $1 million from? So, but let's not focus on that. Also, somebody spoke about, we should focus on the governors to see how the governors' IGR have increased. You give a thief, you give a rat meat to keep. You're now wondering why he stole it. Why will you increase the IGR of the governors when you can actually tie these things to specific projects? You know, we have a long way to go in this country. Federal government can actually execute projects almost in every state in this country. But they are not doing so. Since the Tinubu came into power and they asked citizens to make sacrifice, which sacrifices have politicians made? Politicians have more now to loot and share. The Nigerians were asked to make more sacrifices, to pay more for fuel, to pay more for electricity. You know, a situation where you ask Nigerians to make sacrifices, you increase the budget of the chief of staff to the president by almost 600%. The committee that the TUC president that we just listened to was talking about and they said they set up the committee. To inaugurate the committee, the SGF demanded for 1 billion naira. In this country where people cannot buy Indomie, and over 500 million naira was approved for the SGF. Just to inaugurate a committee, you can imagine. And somebody wants us to take this kind of government serious. Now, additionally, people that says, oh, the economy, GDP is growing, the economy is growing. How can the economy be growing when poverty is growing daily? How can an economy battling with inflation, all the indices showing that this economy is not growing, is visible, but they are telling you that the economy is growing? How? Again, additionally, when government asks poor people to make sacrifices for the country, in the last 9 months, have you seen any sign that these people are willing to make any sacrifice for this country? Definitely no. As we speak, the other contributor, Osasu, that spoke about the issue of inflation. A situation where we are battling inflation, but CBN has been printing money daily for the past 4 months. They have been printing. Initially, when I said it, they denied that they were printing money.
Under this government?
Under this
because
government.
The allegation came from Governor Obaseki.
No. The previous government the previous government was printing money. Previous government was actually printing money. Now, when I said it 4 months ago that this government has been printing money, they denied. But thank God that the new Naira notes actually have surfaced with this Yomi Cardoso signature on it. So, what are we saying? You are battling inflation.
But is it a crime to print money?
When you are battling inflation, how can things get better? When you are battling inflation and you are printing money daily, you are heading the Zimbabwe way, and that is why the Naira is now more worthless than the West African CFA. Again, additionally, when you look at government spending on servicing debt alone, and the most painful thing about Nigeria is that the debt we are servicing is debt that was taken to fund the lifestyle of corrupt politicians and to fund corruption. Majority of the debt we are currently serving today and the new debt we are accumulating is to fund the expensive lifestyle of politicians. When you give this money to the politicians, majority of the money are stolen, whether it is to the civil servant, whether it is to the governors in the states, whether it's to the ministers, to their aides. The solution is very easy. The time of advising politicians is over. They will not look at the beautiful suggestion I have just given of complete removal of custom duty on essential products to cushion the effect of the hardship in the country. They will not listen. They will not do it. The time to advise politicians on what to do has passed. Let all Nigerians join NLC and critical stakeholders in the country. Let's hit the barricades. When we hit it, we saw it during NSAS. This country was in a position during NSAS where government had no option but to actually negotiate. The politicians and the ruling elite, they are too relaxed. And that is why Nigerians must take back their country.
So you want this country to be shut down?
Yes, of course.
Can we afford that?
Yes, we can.
To afford days of non-production?
Absolutely.
In the midst?
We are not producing anything, Shehu. We are not producing anything. And if we are producing anything, tell us which factory is working in Kaduna. Tell us which factory. The only thing that we are producing is corruption. So let the country shut down so that we can get it right. For instance, if you spend 3,000 kilometers going in the wrong direction, because you've traveled far, will you say, oh, you cannot turn back? Let the country shut down so that we can reassess and say, oh, we are getting it wrong. When we shut down the streets, we can now discuss with the government and say, the government will now say, oh, I think we have been getting it wrong. Because we have been advising, the government is not listening. So the only thing that the government listens to is the barricades. When we hit the barricades, government will listen. Government will remove tariff on food, on drugs, because I cannot imagine where prices of food are skyrocketing, but custom is increasing duty. Do you understand? It's like the government want to suffocate Nigerians. They want to suffocate the life out of Nigeria. Because I cannot understand why they are increasing tariff on everything. And this country we practically do not produce anything. Toothpaste is imported into the country. Just like the commodities you've displayed, every single thing price is increasing every week. So I believe that the way out for this country is for us to hit the barricade and shut down the country in conjunction with labor.
Thank you so much, Deja Jones. We do wish our country well. I mean, it's a tough curve for us. Nigerians, the average person is feeling the pinch. And we do hope and pray because some of us don't have anywhere to go. This is our country. We love this country. But how do we make it better if we don't learn our voice? Thank you so much indeed, Deja Jones, for talking to us. And of course, Comrade Festus Osifo, the president of the Trade Union Congress, who spoke to us earlier. Well, that is our show today on the Mic On podcast, and I hope that you enjoyed every bit of it and you'll be able to lend your voice and listen in on how we can go forward in this country. Whether or not the Tinubu government is capable of taming what has become a rising agitations across the land. Well, that's about it today. We're hoping a week brings forth a very, very good story in our economy, in our lives altogether. Thanks so much indeed, everyone, for watching and listening. I'm Sean Wakimale. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mic On Podcast with Seun Okimbaloi. Mic On Podcast for the independent mind.